Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to this week's episode of This Brother Talks. Excuse me. I come to you this week. Anybody who gets on, I just want to say thank you for checking it out. Thank you for getting on. Thank you for participating. Without you, it really wouldn't be possible because, you wouldn't have anybody to talk to, anybody to entertain, anything like that. So, with that being said, we're going to talk about a lot of different things today, and it's solely my opinion and how I feel, not necessarily the truth. But some people may like it, some people may not. But it is what it is. And so we're going to jump right into things. And something peculiar happened today. Um, is Kwame Brown? He had a whole lot of time today. So I had some friends send me some stuff, and I was trying to figure out what was really going on. So I watched it, and I hadn't watched the whole podcast, but I just watched clippings of it and read some stuff about it. But Matt Barnes and Gilbert Arenas and Steven Jackson was on All That Smoke, and they were discussing Kwame Brown. Excuse me. And what some people fail to realize is what some people fail to realize is sometimes those quiet people, those ones that don't say a whole lot, the ones that you really don't want to fool with. And Kwame Brown, he was, drafted in 2001, number one overall by the Wizards. Michael Jordan them picked him. A lot of people said the Wizards shouldn't have picked him first, but this is why I look at it. If the Wizards didn't get him, somebody else was going to pick him second, plain and simple. That's what it was going to be. So either way it goes, it would have been what it would have been. And, they discussed his career. I read a little bit, and it was basically saying that, Michael Jordan had a lot to do with his decline or whatever. And, Kwame's been talked about a whole lot. He was a bust and, and this, that, and the third. And, in my personal opinion, coming out of high school, playing with Michael Jordan and, all that good stuff, that's a hard thing to do. Michael Jordan was his idol. He was a lot of people's idol. And, just because you were great in high school doesn't mean that you're going to be great in the NBA. Just because you were great in college doesn't mean that you're going to be, great in the NBA. And TC, it's a whole lot of pressure. And that's what people fail to realize is like it was a whole lot of pressure on this young kid, 18 years old, given all of that kind of money. And so they discussed, Kwame and all that good stuff. And Kwame just had enough. He basically just told them guys, hey, look, y'all do not want to mess with a grown ass man. And after he, posted all this stuff and said what he was going to say, and he said it cool, calm, and collectively too. And those are the ones that you better watch out for. And, a lot of them backtrack and all that good stuff. And, they don't want no problems with him and this, that, and the third. Travis, you said, I thought he was serviceable. When, yes, I mean, he was. Like, don't get me wrong about that. Everybody wanted him to be this star. But he brought up some good points. He was like, when Kobe scored that 81, look at the screens that was set and all that good stuff. I thought he was very serviceable too. It's just everybody had this high expectation of him because he was drafted number one overall. And that doesn't necessarily always mean that anything to me personally, because just because you're picked number one doesn't mean that you're going to be great. It means that in the way they draft now, they draft based off potential and your upside. And it was all about the almighty dollar too. Oh, we got a high school kid and he's coming out. Let's draft him. You got a lot of people want to see him and this, that, and the third. And they drafted him as upside. And the NBA just wasn't what him in high school didn't carry over to the NBA the way, a lot of people thought it should be, and that's what people fail to realize about professional sports. You could be great in high school at this and great in high school or great in college or whatever. But when you get to the league, you might not be that same type of player. You might have to be a role player. And like Travis, you just said, I'll put it up again. He was serviceable with the Lakers. Plain and simple. It's that simple. And and that's how you have to use some of those guys. And Kwame just had enough. He just had enough. And he basically, in so many words, told those guys, don't poke this bear. Because you poke this bear, you're going to ask for some problems that you really don't want. And, a lot of them, like Gilbert, he backtracked. And, Steven Jackson went on and said he didn't want no smoke with him and all that good stuff. And he loved him and stuff. And I feel where Kwame coming from. Kwame said that he told his mom at 5 years old that he was going to buy a house. At 18, he bought a house. So basically him getting to the league, he basically said that he succeeded in what he wanted to do and all that good stuff. And Matt Barnes was shook when they asked him about the jump. I didn't see that. I got to go back and watch it. See, a lot of this stuff I wasn't able to watch today, Trav. So I got to go back and look at it. I know somebody gonna send it to me. I know Brian Carpenter, he'll send it to me for sure. And he'll send it to me for sure because he'll find it and send it to me. So I gotta watch Matt Barnes and see how he was, because there's some stories out there about Kwame Brown and saying that the guy didn't put up with no crap. And he's 6'11" and a big guy. He said no smoke. They ain't want no smoke at all. But at the end of the day, Kwame just had enough. And I thought that was kind of hilarious that it was going on at this particular time. And then somebody like him that, his career wasn't great. Yes, Brian, that this is the same message Russ was trying to send a few weeks ago. I totally agree. He succeeded in what he wanted to do. Just because his career didn't pan out the way some of us thought it should be, doesn't mean he's not successful. And I talked about this some time ago whenever I ended, your success is not predicated off somebody else's success. If he feels like he got to the league, he got drafted, and that's what he wanted, and he feel like that's his type of success. He got money. He probably invested his money well, and to me, he looks like he's doing pretty good for himself. I mean, plain and simple. So you're right, Brian. That's the same message that Russ was trying to send a couple weeks ago. And so, I think them guys are backtracking on Kwame because, Kwame finally stepped up and said something. And I just feel like they try to say that, he came at them because they got, some type of clout or anything like that. And I just feel like he went at them because it's no use to talking to people that really don't have a big, huge voice, because people going to have an opinion about everything. But these guys, it's a lot of people that tune in to all that smoke and their podcasts and all that stuff. So I think this was the perfect time for him to say something, to go ahead and set the record straight. Because if you correct these guys, everybody else going to think twice about coming at you sideways. And, with that being said, like I said, I wasn't a fan of him getting drafted first. But I knew it was going to happen. But at the same time, just because I thought that he should have had, been doing this and been doing that, that doesn't mean anything. And like Trav said, he was serviceable with the Lakers. Go back and look at it. Go back and watch it. You can get on YouTube and watch it whenever he was playing. He did some good things with the Lakers. It wasn't what everybody wanted it to be, because they put that number one overall pick in front of them. And like I said, what people fail to realize now is they draft you off upside now. It's not like it used to be in the 80s and 90s where they drafted you because you were good right then and there. They draft you now because they're going to give you a couple of years to get it together. And so, Kwame wasn't having it today. And I'm glad them guys backtracked, because I wouldn't want to fool with a cat like him either. So we're going to move right along, and we're going to get off Kwame Brown, but we're going to move to the next topic, and it's the Basketball Hall of Fame. The Basketball Hall of Fame is kind of tricky to me. I looked up because I always wanted to know what the criteria was, and it's really a basic criteria whenever it comes to the Basketball Hall of Fame, because I feel like it's just starting to get watered down now, where if you had a name or you had some pretty good years or whatever, but what others fail to realize is that they're taking your whole body of work. Now, it's not the NBA Hall of Fame. It's basically the Naismith Hall of Fame. That's all of basketball. That's including all your career. If you had a great high school career, great college career, then go on professionally. That's how you get into the Hall of Fame. They put your whole body of work, and the criteria is you have to be retired for 4 years, and on the 5th year after retirement, you can be selected for the Hall of Fame. Regardless of how great your career was, your name goes into the ballot after you've been, retired for 4 years. And then they have 2 committees, and the committees, pick the finalists, and then the finalists are sent to the board, and the board votes on it and all that good stuff. So it's a little process, but it's really no, criteria where you got to win a championship or you got to do this, you got this. It's nothing like that. It's, you play, basketball, they look at your whole body of work, and then, they make a selection based off that, which, I mean, it's kind of cut and dry. It's real simple. But, you just had the 2020 Hall of Fame class with Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan and Kobe Bryant. They all got elected. But this year, the 2021 Hall of Famers are Chris Bosh, Chris Webber, Paul Pierce, and Ben Wallace. And it's hard for you to say some shouldn't be in there, because a lot of people don't think Chris Webber should be in there. I've heard some people say he shouldn't, but if you look at Chris Webber's whole body of work, he deserves to be in the Naismith Hall of Fame. I mean, the guy was a tremendous. He was one of the most sought out, recruits back when he was getting recruited and later played for the Fab Five at Michigan. Then in the NBA, he averaged 20.7 points a game, almost 10 rebounds, and 4.2 assists. Unfortunately, he didn't win any championships because he played. The highlight of his career came when he was in Sacramento, and he made it one game from getting into the NBA Finals, and they lost to the Lakers. Trav, I'm not gonna go as far as say it's trash. I mean, after I looked at the criteria, I can't call it trash. I just don't agree with everybody getting in there. TC, you said the Hall of Fame is a participation trophy. Yes, it almost is, and I'll just be honest with you. And like I said, I hate to knock anybody, but at the end of the day, I think that some of these guys should eventually get in, but I don't think that they should be first ballots. That's my personal opinion. Like, hey, Sean, appreciate it, man. I appreciate you checking it out. I appreciate the encouragement. I appreciate you a lot, bro. Trav, didn't put him in with the Fab. And listen, I agree. He should be in with the Fab Five. But if you look at his whole body of work, Trav, you have to consider him for the Hall of Fame. Some people just looking at his NBA career, but if you look at his high school career, college career, and NBA career, it's hard to go against a Chris Webber. I mean, and he has had, because it's been 8 years since he's been eligible, so he's finally getting in. Paul Pierce, a lot of people hate on Paul. I think Paul is a phenomenal player. He had a great career at Kansas. I think he had, a pretty decent career, in the NBA. Later in his years, he got, bounced around from team to team, whatever. But, I mean, he had 10 All-Stars, He was a Finals MVP in 2008. He averaged 19.7 points a game, 5.6 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. My reasoning for and it's not a team thing that goes in because this a lot of this times is individuals. I just feel like we wouldn't be talking about Paul Pierce if he never won the NBA championship in 2008. With the good team and they beat the Lakers. So I feel like they would have. Paul Pierce wouldn't be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And then, and Chris Bosh, I mean, he won titles with LeBron. Before that, I felt like he was just a guy in a small market, and they couldn't get anybody else around, so he took all the shots, and his stats were inflated. Me personally, a lot of people might disagree with me, but I'm just not. I've never been a fan of Chris Bosh as far as his play, and I never thought that he was like one of the greatest basketball players. And that's what. And when you say Hall of Fame, that's what I look at. Like I look at one of the greatest to ever do it, and I don't feel like he was one of the greatest to ever do it. And truth be told, all of these were none of the greatest to ever do it. I mean, Ben Wallace is going in. I can't say he's one of the best defenders that we've seen, in this generation, because he was a hell of a defender. He was undersized, but he guarding the likes of Shaq and all of them guys, man. So but it's just me. Like I'm still kind of baffled at how you go from a Hall of Fame class of Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, and Kevin Garnett, those likes, and then you go to this Hall of Fame class. Trav, I agree with you. He was good, but not a Hall of Famer. And I think that the reason why he's getting into the Hall of Fame is because it's 2 NBA championships. That's all I can see. And truthfully, he was the third wheel, and that third wheel wasn't that great with D Wade and LeBron. Hargrove, he was all right. He had his moments. I have to give you that. He was all right. Leave TC alone, man. But so the Hall of Fame, like I said, I looked up the criteria, and all of them meet the mold. It's just who they want. I just don't feel like they should be first ballot Hall of Famers. Chris Webber's definitely not, because it's been 8 years and you eligible on your 5th year. Chris Bosh, this is his second go round, and then Paul Pierce is the first ballot. I didn't look to see what Ben Wallace was, but I don't feel like none of them should directly go to the Hall of Fame, and that's just my personal opinion on all of that. So I mean, I don't know. I just have trouble with the Hall of Fame now. Trav, what you say? If you put Ben in, I thought the same thing, Trav, because I look and Chauncey Billups is up. Like he can go in too. So like if you put Ben in, you might as well put Chauncey Billups in too, because didn't Chauncey win Finals MVP the year that they won the NBA Finals? If I'm not mistaken, he did. I mean, so I agree with you on that, Trav. That makes a whole lot of sense. I thought the same thing whenever I saw it earlier, and I seen all the eligible ones that came up, and Chauncey Billups was eligible, and they just didn't put him in. But that's neither here nor there. And so I just wanted to get those 2 topics out of the way, so because we're gonna move right on along, and we're gonna discuss the NBA playoffs. The playoffs are set. We're ready to go. It's going to be interesting playoffs. I'm going to be straight up honest with you. This is the first time in a very long time that I have been excited about the NBA playoffs, because for once they are finally they're finally, causing these guys to have to compete. And so, with that being said, we haven't had too much competition in a long time, in a very long time, in my personal opinion. Not until you got to the finals or anything like that. That's how I feel. Yeah, yep. Yeah, TC, I thought so. When they beat the Lakers, Chauncey Billups was there. Yeah, and so now they have to compete because you had this play in. So some parts of the season meant something, and what a lot of people are not seeing now is this right here. We have this play-in tournament, and the play-in tournament is at first whenever I saw it, and I'll talk about this in a minute. So, TC, that's what I said. Like, you really don't know who's going to the finals because you don't know what's going to happen. But since we'll talk about the play-in a second. But in the Eastern Conference, you got Philly with the number 1 seed, Brooklyn with the number 2 seed. Then you got Milwaukee at 3, the Knicks at 4, Hawks at 5, the Miami Heat at 6. And the play-in games are the number 7 Celtics against the number 8 Wizards, and the number 9 Pacers against the number 10 Hornets. But to talk about the Eastern Conference, we'll see who Philly going to play against and who Brooklyn is going to play against, because they're 1 and 2 and they got to wait for the play-in. But Milwaukee and the Heat, that's going to be interesting because we saw what the Heat did to Milwaukee last year, and I want to see if this is going to be a reoccurring thing, because I talk about it all the time. I was just talking to a friend and my nephew TC last night, Trey and TC, and we were talking about Giannis. Will Giannis show up this playoffs? Will his game carry over to the playoffs? Because that regular season stuff don't mean anything. When playoffs kind of slows down, it's a little bit more defense. And so, with his game the way it is, will it carry over to the playoffs? If the Bucks get past the Heat, they go into the finals. And I disagree with you on that, Trav, because they're going to have problems with Philly and they have problems with Brooklyn. But this is my assessment on them and the Heat. They gonna have a bad matchup with the Heat because Eric Spoelstra will throw some stuff out there and throw wrinkles at them on defense, and they play defense. And this is the key to the Bucks. This is the key to the Bucks. Spoelstra gonna throw all types of stuff at them, but in order for the Bucks to move on and have a deep playoff run and possibly win the finals, is the supporting cast got to play great. It can't just be Giannis and nobody else. Everybody else has to play well also. And I don't mean for 1 or 2 games. It got to be for entire series and the next series and the next series. It can't be they got to play well like that all the time. And I don't know if they can. Will they? We will see. I do not know if they can keep, and play that well, the entire playoffs, the supporting cast. Because if they don't play well, then they can just box Giannis in, and then that's in the story right there. And we'll be looking at the same thing over and over again. Giannis, MVP caliber during the regular season. Then when the playoffs start, he looks like an average basketball player. I mean, this is something I've been saying from the jump. Now, with that being said, I think that a lot of this falls on the shoulder of Budenholzer, because if Budenholzer don't go out and make in-game adjustments and put them in the right situations, then I feel like he has let them down. He's already let Giannis down because his development has been like atrocious to me. So, we'll see what Budenholzer has prepared for the Heat. But I know Eric Spoelstra, and they didn't give him a couple of days and all that good stuff to work on some stuff. The Milwaukee Bucks better be ready because they don't come out and play. The Heat beat them 4-1 because they play defense. And that's just me. And it might be a sweep. A lot of people might not think that, but if they get out there and they go to Milwaukee and they win, the first game or even the second game, it's subject to be, over in 5 games. And that's just the way I feel. Because once the Heat get up, I don't think Milwaukee can get back because they're not that type of team. They're just not that type of team to me. And I think it will start playing in their head. We done had the same thing happen before. The same thing happened before. And that will be, a big, big problem because I don't think Budenholzer is the type of guy that can get them over and say, hey, look, we all right. I don't think I think he's a regular season coach. That's how I feel. Then we got the Knicks and the Hawks. Now, basketball is always good when the Knicks are good. I think the Knicks will pull this series out. They playing at home. They got home court advantage. The Hawks got a pretty decent team, but I think the Knicks will advance to the second round. Then we have the good old Western Conference, and the Western Conference is very interesting. It's very, very interesting that let's see what our Western Conference look like. I had it, but I lost it. And so, okay, here we go. The Western Conference, you got the Jazz at 1, Suns at 2, Denver 3, the Clippers at 4, the Mavs 5, Portland 6, and then the play-in, you got the Lakers 7 against the 8 Warriors, and then you have the 9 Memphis Grizzlies against the 10 San Antonio Spurs. And let's get into just like the playoffs. We'll have to figure out who the Jazz play against, who the Suns play against. But Denver and Portland, that's going to be a pretty good series to me. And I think Portland got a good chance of upsetting these guys if Portland stays healthy. I really do. And, I'm just not a fan of the way that Denver plays. I don't think that style will hold up in the playoffs. I think they had a little magical run last year, but I don't think that will hold off in this year's playoffs. And I think that, everybody's saying Jokic is the MVP. I think his stats are overrated in my personal opinion. I think they're high calorie stats. And so I'm going to leave that alone because I don't want to talk about them. But then we have number 4 and number 5, the Mavs and the Clippers. Everybody say the Clippers. Everybody said the Clippers, tanked towards the end so they wouldn't have to play against the Lakers in like the early rounds or whatever. I mean, if that's their strategy and if it worked, perfect. Because the way they're looking at it is if we get the Lakers, LeBron is not 100% and he won't be able to sustain on that ankle. So I think they kind of played it smart, and I think they rested their guys, which they've been resting all season. I think that series will be one of the better series because we're gonna see what Paul George and Kawhi Leonard really has because they got to play against a young Luka, and if they're the great two-way players that they supposed to be, then they'll go ahead and one of them will take them this possession, they'll switch possession, they'll just wear Luka out. Because I think the Mavs use Luka too much, in my personal opinion. That's just me. I feel like the ball stays in his hand too much. And, me personally, I think that, with that, it's going to take a toll on his legs and all that good stuff. So we're going to see what's going to happen. And the playoffs is set. But the big, big thing is this right here, the play-in tournament. And this is going to be very, very, very interesting to me simply because we got a good play-in tournament. We're going to start out with the Jazz and the Grizzlies, 9 and 10 playing against each other. So the Spurs, so I take this off for a second. So basically the play-in is like this right here. 7 and 8 play, 9 and 10 play. 7 and 8 play, whoever wins that goes to the 7th seed. The loser of that will play the winner of the 9 and 10 game. And that person, that team, they play each other in the third game, and whoever wins that goes to the 8th seed. which I think that's kind of BS because I don't think you should give a person two chances, a team two chances to get in. If you lose, you lose. That's the way I look at it. All of those teams' record are somewhat around the same. And if you're doing a play-in, I think it should be those two teams go against each other, other two teams go against each other, and you basically play it. Even if you had to make it a series, a 3-game series, hey, the best 2 out of 3 between those and go from there. But with that being said, the loser of the 7-8 series is going to play against the winner. And that's just the other crazy part. The loser is going to host the winner of the 9-10 series. And I don't like that because if you lost, how can you get a great benefit from losing and then you host the home game? So with that being said, the first game we're going to talk about are the Spurs and the Grizzlies. These are two underrated teams. The Spurs are going through one of those transitional periods, and without any stars, they lost Duncan, they lost Ginobili, they lost Parker. Then Kawhi Leonard did what he did, and so the Spurs are in a transitional phase. I honestly think that Popovich done a great job of what he has. LaMarcus Aldridge left. And they ain't really had too much of nothing to be excited about, anything like that. The Grizzlies are young and upcoming. You got John Morant, and then they got a young and upcoming coach. And I think that that this will be a good game. Ultimately, I think the Grizzlies will win, and they will wait to travel to either Golden State or they're going to California, so they might as well just go ahead and go halfway, and then they decide where they're going from there. So I think the Grizzlies will win that game, and and then they'll play the winner between the Lakers and Golden State, and that's going to be my last game I talk about because that's a very interesting game. All right, over in the East, you got the Hornets and the Celtics. I'm very disappointed in this one right here. I feel like if LaMelo Ball would have never gotten hurt, I think the Hornets would have been one of the top teams in the East, and they wouldn't have had this play in. Right now, I think they're a better team than the Celtics. The Celtics got some injuries. I think Brad Stevens has lost his voice in that locker room. A lot of people think that, you got to give him a little bit more time because those guys are young, but he's been with those guys for long enough, and I think that everybody making up excuses about COVID and just that everybody had to deal with the same type of stuff. Injuries, COVID season, all that good stuff. And just because, you took them to the conference finals, 3 out of 4 years, that don't mean a hill of beans to me because, the first couple of years it was LeBron. Then once LeBron left, y'all felt like y'all was there. Didn't happen. And now you're a 500 team and you're playing against a young and upcoming Hornets team. And this is the way I look at it. The Hornets have nothing to lose and everything to gain. That's just the way I'm looking at it. And I think the Hornets are going to approach it that way. Where the Celtics have to look at it from this light right here. We supposed to be a better team. We got the superstars. Yes, we had some injuries, but it's no excuse for us to be where we at. But now they're hearing everything. Oh, Brad Stevens done lost his voice. Y'all shouldn't be 500 team. And I think they're going to go in tight. And I think they're going to get beat. And I hope they get beat because, I'm from North Carolina. I want to see the Hornets do well. I want to see them, make progress and not, go backwards. Them getting in and then getting this play in, I think that's good for them. I think they beat the Celtics. Plain and simple. I think they beat the Celtics end of the day. Hey, I agree with you, Trav. They should have kept some people. Terry Rozier, I don't think he was appreciated in there. And hey, he might have a chip on his shoulder whenever they play against him this time. So then, into that, and I'll get on this real quick. I think that Brad Stevens lost his voice. I don't think that, he is the right voice for the Celtics right now. So I think after this, they need to move in a different direction. I'm not saying that the guy can't coach. I'm just saying that he has lost his voice in that locker room. And it's either you keep Brad Stevens and you lose your superstars, or you get rid of Brad Stevens and get somebody to take these boys over the hump. That's the way I look at it. And so, all right, we're done with that one. And we're going to go to the next one, which is a very, I made a mistake. And I did that wrong. The Hornets do not play against the dang on Celtics. I'm all on that. It's the Wizards that play against the Celtics, if I'm not mistaken. NBA playing. I think the Wizards play against the Celtics, if I'm not mistaken. The Hornets play against the Pacers. That's who they play against. The Hornets play against the Pacers. So, hey, let me correct that. The Hornets play against the Pacers. My bad on that. Like I was just talking away and all that good stuff. The Hornets play against the Pacers. And I think the Pacers have a good team. They had some issues going on with, coaches and players and all that good stuff. But in the end, I think that the Hornets going to beat the Pacers too. I just think they have nothing to lose and everything to gain. The next matchup is the Wizards and the Celtics. That's where I made a mistake at. I done talked about the Celtics. Let's talk about the Wizards. The Wizards have Russell Westbrook playing out his mind, Mr. Triple-Double. You got Bradley Beal, who was second in scoring. I think he got a little nagging injury. Don't know what's going to happen with him. But at the end of the day, I think that Russ will carry them over and Scott Brooks has done a great job coaching them this year, through, the adversity that he had. Russ was hurt his first part of the year, never complained about it. Him and Bradley Beal trying to get acquainted with each other. And then they don't really have a whole lot else that, goes with those two. When you think of the Wizards, all you think about is Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook. Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook. But I don't think that I don't think that the Wizards will lose to the Celtics. I don't see it happening. I think the Celtics are just on a decline. They got a 500 record, which they should have been better than that. But I think the Wizards will prevail and carry on, and the Celtics will get another shot when they play against the winner of the Pacers and the Hornets. But I don't think that the Celtics will beat the Wizards. I think the Wizards will prevail. Russ will have a great game, damn near triple-double, if not a triple-double. And Bradley Beal, if he's healthy, he'll have 30, 35 points. The Celtics, Jason Tatum, I think he's a great young talent. He will go out there and ball out, but I don't think that, all the rest of the pieces will be able to come together. And I don't think Brad Stevens will have them ready at the end of the day. So, so far I got the Grizzlies over the Spurs, the Hornets over the Pacers, and the Wizards over the Celtics. And then we'll go to the most intriguing game, the Lakers versus the Warriors. A lot of people were trying to find out before I get on that, TC. You said that's even worse. Russ is going crazy. Yeah, I think so too. But let's talk about the Lakers and the Warriors. The Lakers have won their last two. LeBron and AD have come back, and the scary thing is that LeBron tweaked his ankle again last night in that game. And the way I look at it is, if that ankle is not 100%, if anybody who's ever had ankle sprains and stuff like that, and LeBron is a big guy to carry that weight on that ankle, I don't know if it's going, even if they make it past this game and get into, the playoffs or whatever, I don't know if that ankle will hold up, because, if it's not 100% and you playing all these grueling games and grueling series, then, it's just not going to be, great for LeBron and the Lakers. Then you have the Warriors, and Steph Curry been playing great basketball. Other than that, it's just Steph Curry, in my personal opinion, whenever it comes to the Warriors. Steph Curry, led the league in scoring this year at 33 years old, which that was something that hadn't been done since, Michael Jordan did it or whatever. Trav, I'm not about to hate on the Lakers. I'm not about to hate on the Lakers because I think that the Lakers have the better team to beat the Warriors. But here's the thing. If they let Steph Curry get off and Steph Curry have 35, 40, if he have over 40 points, then I think the Lakers are in trouble. That's just, I think that in order for, because if Steph Curry have that much, then he's getting a lot of wide open shots. And then after a while, you're going to have jokers come double team and triple team. Then that's going to leave it open for the Oubres and, all of them, the slashers and all that good stuff to do what they need to do. I think that if that happens, then the Lakers would evidently get another shot at it, and they will play the winner of the Memphis Grizzlies and the San Antonio Spurs. And this is a scenario that a lot of Laker fans don't want to hear. A lot of basketball players and basketball fans don't want to hear. If Golden State beat the Lakers, that means that the Lakers has to play a second game to try to get into the playoffs. And I'm thinking as a basketball mind, and we've all seen this happen before. And a lot of you hear me out before you think that I'm hating on the Lakers and I'm saying it's going to happen. I said, just picture this scenario. We done seen teams that felt like they should have made the playoffs, or we can think back to the NCAA tournament. They felt like they should have made the tournament, didn't make the tournament, end up getting in and having to go to the NIT. Get to the NIT. They're one of the top seeds in the NIT, and what happened? They lay a nest egg because they really weren't into it because they felt like, that was the lesser of the tournaments that they need to be in. They wanted to be in the big tournament. So just imagine this right here. Being a basketball person, we've all played it. We've all been in this situation before in sports, period, is that if you play sports and you felt like, you should have won, you should have been here, should have been there, and the Lakers lose this first game, the pressure's on them if they don't win this game. Then they have to go and play another game. LeBron's never been in this situation. I think that he will be prepared for it. And I don't think that the Spurs or the Memphis Grizzlies are superior teams over them. I think they're lesser teams. But when it's all said and done, if the Lakers go in, lose, and then they go to that next game and they just mentally not into it. We've all been there where you just hadn't been mentally into something because, one, you let yourself down the first go round. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's a good possibility that they lose against Golden State and Steph Curry them, and then go back that next game and just lay an egg and not make the playoffs at all. And it could be, LeBron getting hurt, AD just not 100%. It could be. It could be. Like, anything can happen. And like we all know, LeBron is not 100% right now. We know he's not. We saw him tweak his ankle last night. But that's neither here nor there. We're talking about the Lakers and the Warriors. And me personally, I just got a funny feeling that Steph Curry might go crazy. And the Lakers are going to have trouble stopping this young man. Because they're on a tear right now. And said it best, momentum is on the Dubs. Like, they momentum is crazy. Like, yeah, the Lakers won the last two, but who did they win the last two against? Like, and I'm all about, going into playoffs, you need to be playing your best basketball. I don't know if the Lakers are playing their best basketball because we haven't seen LeBron or AD against the best competition. And Trav, you say you like the Lakers' chances against the Jazz or the Suns. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you like this right here. Utah is a tough place to play, and Utah are letting more people into the stands. And I lived in Utah, and I've been to games in Utah, and that's one of the most hostile places that you want to play in. And I ain't gonna say that you just got a better chance against the Jazz or the Suns. I can't say that because both of those teams are really legit, and they got good teams. They're complete teams, in my estimated opinion. They're complete teams. Hey, it don't matter if he's still hurt or not. They have complete teams. That's what I said, complete teams. Where if somebody goes down, somebody else steps up. It's not like it's solely on one person. It's solely on the second person. No, they got this person, that person, this person, that person. They're not, a team where it's solely dependent on one or two superstars. They got a bunch of, role players that do what they're supposed to do, and it's evenly distributed around for everybody. And Brian, you said this right here. AD, we talk about this all the time, Brian. We talk about this all the time. AD has those games sometimes he just don't show up. Plain and simple. And sometimes they're back-to-back games. And it showed last year where he didn't show up in some games. It just so happened he got lucky and they were playing against a lesser team and it was just different situations. So that's another thing that plays a factor in everything too, is that he has those type of times where he doesn't show up. And if he don't show up, LeBron physically, in my opinion, is not healthy enough to carry that team if AD doesn't show up the way he's supposed to show up. And anybody knows me, I'm not the biggest AD fan. I think that he's very overrated. I think a lot of people give him too much credit because I watched a guy quit on his team in New Orleans. And I don't think he's one of the best players in the NBA. Like now, people say top five, I don't give him top five. I mean, it's just because you have good stats or you knock down a couple shots, but he don't show up night in and night out, and he stay injured too much. So I can't put you one of those, top five players. But this series will be very intriguing. I wish the NBA would move the game to an earlier time because it doesn't come on to 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and the East Coast gonna have to sit up and watch that game. It won't go off to about 1 o'clock. 12:30, 1 o'clock. So we'll see what's going to happen. What I may do is I may come back like after the play-in games are over with, right before the playoffs, and just do like a little special show and, and talk about, the series is going forward. But anybody that want to count the Warriors out, don't do that. Don't do it. Like, they don't have a great team. Don't get me wrong. And I'm gonna say this again, Travis. My cousin Travis. He said that is it hate on the Lakers time? No, I think the Lakers have a far more superior team than the Golden State Warriors. Yes, I said it, Travis. They have a far more superior team than the Golden State Warriors. But the difference is the Warriors are following their leader. They're letting Steph do what he's supposed to do. He's doing a lot of scoring. Draymond is dishing out assists and doing what he's supposed to do, and the other guys are just filling in roles. And they know they roll. Whereas the Lakers is totally different. It's solely built around LeBron and then AD. And if LeBron is not 100%, AD just so happens not to show up, then the Lakers are going to be in a whole lot of trouble. Plain and simple. I hope that it turns out to be a great game. And it's hard for me to pick who's going to win this game because we don't know how LeBron is. Um, and then the Lakers play real good defense. So that's another good thing that might go in their favor. They're one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. They're one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. So that one I'm going to go ahead and pick. I'm going to go with the Warriors. You heard it, Travis. That's not hating. That's just me making a pick. I'm going to go with the Warriors on this one. And then the Lakers will get a chance to play again, and they'll be the eighth seed or whatever. And they'll end up playing against the Jazz. So, the play-in is very different now. Like, I honestly, I talked to, I'm in a group chat with some friends, and I talked about the play-in, and I felt like it was going to be some trash. And I don't like one rule in it where, the team that loses the 7-8 game goes and plays the winner of the 9-10 game. I don't like that, but everything else I like because now these guys and the NBA is making LeBron do something he hasn't done in years, and that's compete. Plain and simple. It's that simple. It just compete. So, this was basically almost like an all NBA segment or whatever. One last thing, my Eagles made a big move today, and we signed one of the Washington football team players, which I was very shocked at whenever it happened that we signed him. And I was very shocked that the Eagles they signed Kerrigan from the Washington football team. The DN. So we got another pass rusher, and I'm happy about that. So I could talk a little football. And TC, you said who cares about the Eagles? Who gives a damn about your Raiders? Who cares? Who cares about your Raiders? Is that don't hate on my mom? Don't hate on my mom. Who cares about the Raiders? Plain and simple, TC. Who cares about the Raiders? But we signed Ryan Kerrigan, the defensive pass rusher from the Washington football team. I think that's an upgrade for what we have. I'm starting to get excited about that a little bit. I don't know what was going to happen with Jalen Hurts. I'm not a fan of that. But that's another story for another day. They do nothing but depress me a little bit more. So, with that being said, my final word is on our favorite person, Kyrie Irving. This joker said that, with everything that's going on in the world today, that basketball is not something that he wants to talk about. And, with everything that's going on in the world, he's compassionate about everything, which I understand what Kyrie's saying. I understand how he feels and everything. But basketball is your job. And with your job, you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do. And if that means, you have to answer some basketball questions because that's a part of your contract. You ask some basketball questions. And anybody who wants to change the world, you can change the world, through your job, still do your work and change the world. Plain and simple. Like you can change the world however you want and still work and still do your job and still talk about your job. I can talk about my job for, 5-10 minutes and then talk about changing the world. I can talk about all of them all together. So I applaud Kyrie for trying to make change in the world, but he's coming off the wrong way because, you playing basketball, you're getting paid to play basketball. That is your job, and you don't want to do part of your job because of what's going on in the world. And what's going on in the world is not going to change because you talk about it or because reporters want to talk about it. Like That's not their job to report that. Their job is to report about you and basketball. Plain and simple. So I wish our good friend Kyrie Irving would stop this, because I'm kind of afraid of something happening in the playoffs that, you know, that we wouldn't want to see. Because at any given moment, this guy could say that he doesn't want to play and take off. And that troubles me, because I think that Kevin Durant made a bad decision about playing with this guy. And Kyrie is one of the best talents in the NBA. But at the end of the day, he needs to stop with those antics, talking about he doesn't want to discuss basketball. That's not his primary focus, and all this good stuff. It's playoff time. If that's not your primary focus, then what are the Nets going to do? Because you have KD, you have James, and then you have Kyrie. And then you have some supporting cast. But, they gave up a lot of assets whenever they, traded for James. So, the supporting cast is not as deep as it used to be. So I wish Kyrie would get off of this, like, he's going to change the entire world just not by not talking basketball. He says he does that 24/7, and that's your job. Like, that's what you get paid. You get paid millions to do that. And I just wish Kyrie would stop that, because a lot of people look at him and he comes off the wrong way because of and Kyrie, to me, is a very intelligent guy. Just listening to him talk, and he's very punctual about everything. He pronunciates everything great. He's clear with what he's saying, but sometimes he just gets off on these things where you just don't know what Kyrie you're going to get. And at the end of the day, if he decides that he's not going to play basketball and that he just don't feel like playing, then I think that hurts the sport in general, and it hurts the Nets overall, because we've already had enough of, low management and stars not playing. And then what if one of your stars decide, I don't want to play in the playoffs, when that could hinder the Brooklyn Nets from winning an NBA championship? So I applaud what Kyrie's trying to do and change the world. We all should want to try to change the world, for the good, because it's a lot of bad that's going on out here these days. But at the end of the day, don't stop doing your job to complain about what's going on in the world. And you can't change nothing in another country unless you over there and you're doing it. So the best thing for you to do sometimes, and what he is failing to realize, is a lot of times sports helps out more than what you really know. Like, sports take, your mind off a lot of things. That's a lot of times when we all come together and forget about race, color, creed, religion, or any of that type of stuff. So with that being said, that's my final word. Like I said, I may come back sometime another this week and talk about the playing games. I'm not sure yet. If I do, I'll post it and let everybody know. And it would be like a little short one where it'd be like 10, 15 minutes that, I just discussed that and we move on. But anybody who checked it out, from Travis to TC to Charles to anybody that I missed, on Janet, all of y'all who always tune in and always check it out. Hey, appreciate you guys checking it out. For sure, we'll be back next Monday at 7:30 Central Time, 8:30 Eastern. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and just Google This Brother Talks, and you will find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So until next week, y'all have a good rest of your week, and we will see you then. Thank you for tuning in. Until then, I am